Thank you for your interest in StratiSYSTEM, the infrastructure operating system for storage, compute, virtualization, AI, and HPC architectures. In this video, I will show you how to install a 3-node StratiSYSTEM cluster. I will be demonstrating this on 3 virtual machines, but the procedure is identical for bare metal and with any scale of hardware configuration from a single node to hundreds within a single cluster. I will begin first by installing the base StratiSYSTEM operating system from an ISO image. The image can also be written to a USB stick for systems lacking out-of-band management. In this scenario, boot each of the 3 systems with the ISO image. At the main boot selection menu, choose the Install SteelDome StratiSYSTEM OS option to begin installation. Within a few moments, the graphical installer window will appear. The first step is to select the installation destination option from the upper right-hand corner of the on-screen menu. Next, select the physical disk device that will be used for the main OS installation location. In this scenario, I will be installing to a single disk device. However, multiple disk devices can be selected for use with software RAID to protect against device failure. This is highly recommended for production environments where hardware RAID controllers are not present. Additionally, you have the option to encrypt the main OS installation device. See the SteelDome Wiki for more details on these advanced configuration options. Once the main disk device is selected, select the Custom Radio button and then click on Done. Next, if you see existing partitions under the Unknown drop-down section, this means the system was previously configured with another operating system. Select the first partition and then click on the minus button. A confirmation window will appear asking for permission to proceed with the removal of the partitions. Ensure that you also check the box that says Delete all file systems which are only used by Unknown. Only do this if you are certain you no longer need the data contained within these partitions. When ready, click on the Delete It button. The next step is to select the partition scheme for the selected disk. For most scenarios, you will want to select Standard Partition from the drop-down box. Finally, click on the line in blue that says Click here to create them automatically. This will present you with a default partition layout. Select the swap partition and then click on the minus button to remove it. StratiSYSTEM does not use a swap partition, but if one is needed later, it can be enabled. Next, click on the home partition and click on the minus button to remove it. Finally, select the root partition, which is the one labeled with a /. In the desired capacity field to the right, enter a value larger than the entire disk capacity. This will make the install wizard calculate and use the largest value possible for the root partition. Click on the Update Settings button to apply the new capacity value. This completes the disk partition segment of the installation. When ready to proceed, click on the Done button in the upper left-hand corner twice. You need to click twice in order to bypass the swap warning message since we removed the swap partition from the configuration. You will see a summary of changes outlining the partition configuration we are about to apply to the system. When ready, click on Accept Changes and you will be returned to the main menu. The next step is to configure the network. From the main menu, click on the Network and Host Name option. This will open the Network Wizard screen. The first step is to assign a host name. I will use the name Stratostore 1-1, 1-2, and 1-3, respectively for each system in this scenario. You can use whichever naming convention is acceptable based on your network device naming policy. When ready, click on the Apply button to commit the host name change. Next, we will define the IP configuration for the first network device labeled here as ENS192. Note, you can also configure teaming and VLAN tagging in this wizard, but this is beyond the scope of this video. See the SteelDome Wiki for information related to this advanced configuration. Select the first adapter labeled ENS192 and then click on the Configure button in the lower right-hand corner. This will open the network interface configuration screen. Click on the IPv4 Settings tab to open the IP address configuration screen. Select the manual method from the Method drop-down box. Then click the Add button to enter the IP address, netmask, and gateway for this interface. When finished, click on the additional DNS server field and enter a valid DNS server IP address. If you do not have one on your local network, you can use a public internet-based DNS server such as 8.8.8.8. Next, click on the IPv6 tab and set the method to disabled. Click Save to commit the changes. And finally, click on the Done button in the upper left-hand corner to exit the Network Configuration Wizard and return to the main menu. You are now ready to proceed with the installation. Click on the Begin Installation button in the lower right-hand corner to proceed. Perform these steps on all 3 nodes. When finished, you will have completed the installation phase of the StratiSystem operating system. At the end of the installation, click on the Reboot System button in the lower right-hand corner. Now, I will walk you through the preparation phase of the StratiSystem operating system. For this phase, you will need to access each system using an SSH terminal program, such as PuTTY, or, preferably, a multicast SSH terminal program, such as MobaXterm. I will log in using the default username of root and the default password of SteelDome, capital S and capital D. Now that I'm logged in, I will change directories to the /StratiSystem prep directory. Now I will run the main preparation engine by typing the command source_start.sh and pressing enter. In a moment, the preparation engine screen will appear. I will first install the storage clustering services on all 3 nodes. This is done by selecting option 1 from the menu and selecting the Run Preparation option. This will begin the preparation guided workflow. Press enter on the password for the root account. If this was changed prior to invoking the preparation engine, enter the new root password here. This will be the only time the system will ask for the root password. Next, type Y if you want to enable NVIDIA GPU support. StratiSystem supports CUDA, virtual GPU, and multi-instance modes of operation. In this scenario, I will select N for no NVIDIA GPU support. Next, type Y if you want to enable AMD GPU support. In this scenario, I will select N for no AMD GPU support. Next, provide the time server used for synchronizing the time services on each node. In most cases, you can select the default auto-detected address. However, if you wish to override the value, you can do so here. Press enter to perform time server validation. Next, you will be given an option to validate the network configuration. This step is critical, and each value must be confirmed before proceeding. If any value is incorrect, the validation process will fail. The last step is to erase the data and partitions on any disk device detected on the system, except the OS disks. Use caution with this option, as it is irreversible. To proceed with the non-boot device data wipe, type YPOL in all capital letters. If unsure, simply click Enter to skip. We are now ready to begin the preparation phase. Click Enter to begin. The preparation phase will take several minutes. Once completed, the terminal session will end and the system will reboot. If you have console access, you can monitor the reboot process from there. Once rebooted, each system will complete internal configuration steps and then reboot again. After the second reboot, we will then proceed with the final provisioning phase. The last and final phase is the provisioning phase. This phase is responsible for bootstrapping the cluster and activating any services you need for your particular deployment use case. Log in via SSH to each of the 3 systems as root. At the command prompt, type /start.sh and press enter. When the main menu appears, on node number 1, select option 1. This will perform the steps specific to the first node in the bootstrap process. When ready, type Y and press enter to begin the first node installation step. On nodes 2 and 3, or all other nodes you have remaining, select option number 2. This will perform the steps specific to all remaining peer nodes in the bootstrap process. When ready, type Y and press enter to begin the peer node installation step. When all peer nodes have completed their bootstrap phase, then and only then, on node 1, proceed with phase 2 of the bootstrap process. This phase on node 1 will activate cluster services on all peer nodes and bring the cluster services online. Once phase 2 has completed, the cluster is now operational. We will now only need to work on node 1 from this point forward. Now that the cluster has been bootstrapped, we must activate disk devices to be used as storage devices within the cluster. Type StratiStore at the command prompt to open the provisioning engine. From here, click on option 51 for storage management, then option 4 for SD cache management, and then option 3 for RAM-based SD cache activation. This will enable SD cache acceleration services with the designated disk devices. Each of the 3 systems has 2 disk devices designated SDB and SDC as shown in the table. Type Y and press enter to automatically add the new disk devices to the cluster. And finally, type Y and press enter to proceed with activation. Once the SD cache activation has completed, we will now proceed to activate the hypervisor services within the cluster. From the main menu, select option 16. Following successful validation, type Y and press enter to begin the VM services activation across all cluster nodes. Once the VM services have been successfully activated, we will proceed with enabling the container services. From the main menu, select option 17. Following successful validation, type Y and press enter to begin the Kubernetes cluster services activation. At this point, all core services are enabled within the cluster. Any remaining services can be activated from the main menu. However, this will conclude the service activation for this video, and we will now proceed to log into the main web-based management console. To do so, simply open any web browser and type in https://IP of the first node on port 3199 and press enter. You will see a certificate warning. This is expected as the default certificate is self-signed. Accept the certificate and proceed to the main login screen. At the login screen for the username, type stratistore-admin and use the password SteelDome, capital S, capital D. Click on Login to proceed. You'll now be able to access all StratiServe and StratiStore functions, as well as all system-wide functions from within the management interface. This concludes the installation overview for the StratiSystem operating system. For more information related to SteelDome technologies, please visit our website at steeldome.com. Additionally, visit our YouTube page for more StratiSystem walkthroughs and advanced deployment use case videos.